Hey, Nicole Norwood here for some tea time. And I thought we'd talk about good confusion versus bad confusion in storytelling. It's something that comes up more than you would think in writing these days. And I think there really is a distinction between something that intrigues your audience versus something that's going to alienate their audience. And I know as a writer, you want to write something that is suspenseful, that keeps the audience guessing, that doesn't put all your cards on the table immediately, that really sets you up to have some place to go and something to discover, which is great. I think the challenge comes when it becomes so obtuse or so abstract that you're creating a sense of alienation with your audience. They can't follow your story, or it's too complicated and they feel like, oh my gosh, I just cannot invest that kind of time in trying to figure out what is happening or what someone is trying to say to me. So, I think it's really important as you're crafting story, whether that's an actual mystery, whether that's just withholding details about what might happen later in your story, that you do it in a way that gives enough of a breadcrumb, that gives enough information that your audience is engaged and very curious to see what happens next. And I've heard from so many writers, well, that's something they'll find out in episode 5, or we're going to make that clear later, or they'll know by the end of the season. And I think when you're talking about television, um, that's very dangerous. Don't think you're going to get to it and see in episode 5, because there may not be an episode 5, because people will have not managed to get through episode 1 or episode 2. It's really important not to take for granted your audience. And again, mystery is great, breadcrumbs are great, Easter eggs are great, all of those things that provide discovery for the audience, give them a play along factor, which is always a great element of storytelling. But you never want to do it to the point where they feel like they are disconnected from what you're telling them, or that it is so confusing that they can't go along for the ride with you. Now, this doesn't mean spoon feeding your audience information. It doesn't mean that you need to tell them everything up front. It doesn't mean you need to lay things out A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It really just means that you should be mindful of people's confusion levels, whether that's something that's keeping them engaged and curious to move forward, or whether it's something that is causing them to tune out and turn off what it is you spent so much time working on. So think about that. Have someone read your work. Have someone who has no idea um, what the where the story goes, what your intention is. Read it cold. And if they come to you and they say, I don't get it, man, or I was so lost, or I'm not sure where this is going, and it's in a way that has compromised their read, take a second look. Really think about that. If they come back and say, oh my gosh, I can't wait to watch episode 2, like I'm not quite sure what's happening, but I'm completely in, that's what you want. You want that feeling of, I can't wait to see what happens next, not, oh, I'm so frustrated. Like, I don't care what happens next. So keep that in mind as you're breaking story, as you're writing, and really solicit the a point of view from someone who is not familiar with what you're trying to accomplish, and get that perspective of how your work is coming across to someone who doesn't know what your intention is. So I hope that's helpful, and we'll see you next time with some more advice and talk about the business. Thanks so much.